I've been going back and forth on to whether or not I should make this video or not. And ultimately, I decided I did want to get my feelings out with regards to not only the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, but also obviously the news surrounding its release, namely in terms of its pricing. Hey everyone, it's Yggdrasiel, and I know this isn't going to be the most informative video. It's rather an impromptu my thoughts video. As you can tell, I'm not going off one of my usual scripts, so please forgive me for any rambling or any sort of incoherence. I just decided that I would much rather get my own thoughts across to you with regards to the Switch 2. So let's begin with the Direct itself, which I thought was more than fine. It wasn't remotely on par with my expectations, say, as compared to the 2017 Nintendo Switch Direct. Because, we've had the idea, it's like, okay, 2024 has largely been carried by these third-party games and these ports, and not really so much on the mainline first-party IP. So I think I was overly expectant that we were going to just, get first party title banger after banger, so to speak, with the Switch 2 Direct. And instead what we got is honestly just the Nintendo Switch 2 showing off that it really is the collab console, so to speak. And I will appreciate the fact that Nintendo got all of these different producers and developers to highlight their own entries for the Switch 2 launch. I mean, seeing Josef Fares was an absolute delight. Let's be real. So I think that was one of the bigger points for me. I do think that they did take quite a bit of time, more than I would have liked, showing off the camera and chat features. I think that was a little bit too much. And I'm not sure how to feel about the Mario Party Jamboree DLC pretty much requiring that camera, which is quite an expensive add-on, in my opinion, to fully experience everything that offers. But as for the rest of the bulk of the Direct itself, I mean, solid, smooth. I will say I did appreciate that they had the temerity and tenacity to show off the camera audibly lagging when they were sharing screens. That was a very bold choice, but I'm glad that they didn't, feed us a lie. It's like, oh, look how pristine and it's gonna be so nice and clear. It's like, no, you are sharing multiple screens to a single Switch 2 device. It's not a full-on PC, although it is running incredibly smoothly, and I think that is the big trade-off. I think people have been angry about the battery life being about anywhere from 3 to 6.5 hours, but we're trading in that battery life for this immense quality. I mean, when I saw Metroid Prime 4 having the option between performance mode, quality versus its performance, that was something I would expect out of a PlayStation presentation. That's something I would expect from a PS5 level game. So the fact that I could see that now, and I'm pretty sure that was just like the first of many entries down the line that are going to have these kinds of modes. I gotta say, that was a really nice and beautiful touch. And it has made me a little more expectant of the quality that future games will have coming our way. To say nothing of Mario Kart World, for example, that looked utterly gorgeous. Every aspect of that just seems like a vibrant and lively delight. I personally can't wait to play it, should the costs ever get to me, but again, I'll come to that in a little bit. What else was there? I feel like, honestly, one of the bigger highlights for me also might have been the GameCube representation, and I don't just simply mean NSO, although that's a very big part of my enthusiasm for the Switch 2 Direct, because I already have the NSO subscription. You're telling me that if I get the Switch 2, they're going to throw a GameCube on it, and that is going to come sooner or later with, Pokemon Gale of Darkness and Pokemon Coliseum, the Ore region Pokemon games that were honestly, actually, Pokemon Coliseum, was one of the first Pokemon entries that I ever played, because little old Yiggy did not have a handheld console growing up, because parents thought it was too bad for his eyes. So what happened there is, I grew up on Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Coliseum, Pokemon Gale of Darkness, the Stadium games on the 64. Those were my entries. So to see that love come out for Coliseum and Gale of Darkness all alone is fantastic, to say nothing of the fact that people will finally have access to Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, which is arguably one of my more favorite entries in the entire series. I mean, seriously, I cannot wait for people to go through and experience that. The Tellius entries are phenomenal. Phenomenal writing, phenomenal characters. Really, please give yourselves a chance to play those games. In fact, despite the lingering animosity with regards to the pricing, the fun fact is, whatever they land on, if you want a legit way to play these games, the Pokemon games and Path of Radiance, they'll end up actually being cheaper if you go for the Switch 2 and the NSO subscription to play them than if you had bought your own GameCube and a used copy of those games, because those are hundreds of dollars a piece, US dollars a piece. So I'm glad people finally get to experience that, as they will finally get to experience Kirby Air Ride, or should I say Kirby Air Riders, which appears not to be like a remaster or remake, but hopefully it is its own new entry. I would love to see, city trial mode come back or things like that. But so that's why I say GameCube, I feel, stole a little bit of that spotlight for me. So we got the GameCube, NSO, and Kirby Air Riders. We got Mario Kart World. We got Metroid Prime 4 looking gorgeous. We got huge third-party collaboration. I'm really just flabbergasted by Silksong having 3 seconds alone. And then we also, we got to see Donkey Kong Bonanza, which looks like it will be a delight. And I was skeptical a little bit with the new Donkey Kong model, but the more I saw through this game, I could sort of see why they would go through it. And in fact, I really enjoy it now. It looks so lively, so animated, so just vibrant. And with all of that in tow, it was a decent direct. It was not the most oh my goodness, this is it. It's finally happening. I'm going to get all these games and more. I will get Bravely Default. I will get Silksong. I will get Split Fiction, actually, for me and my fiance. And I will, of course, get Mario Kart World. But I'm going to have to break a little bit of bank, because I'm in good old USA. And that, of course, has been the center of a phenomenally horrid situation. Which isn't to say that other areas around the world aren't also in similar slack-jawed positions. I mean, look at Australia with the pricing from the Australian dollars, 69 Australian dollars for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, now 119, almost double the price for Mario Kart World. My goodness. Meanwhile, I better brush up on my Japanese, because, if I wanted to go and get a Japanese region-locked Nintendo Switch 2 for 100 and some odd US dollars cheaper, there we go. I laugh, but it's painful. It really is. And I've been talking with people who have told me that, they feel gaming is their pastime. Gaming is what, helps them through a lot of the stressors of the real world. And, they're getting priced out of their luxury pastime, especially if they are strictly Nintendo fans, and I can see that, and I do agree. That is just, unfortunately, the reality, that these luxuries, these pastimes, are just... It's not expensive for its own sake, too, obviously, and this is the thing that stinks, is I never want to be one of the overly political people on this channel, but at the same time, this is a situation that literally cannot ignore the real world consequences of inflation, of these tariff talks, of global marketing, and it's just it's awful, because again, people view Nintendo as the family-friendly guy, not this sun-greedy bastard here to milk you for every little penny and morsel you got. And I don't feel like Nintendo truly wants to be that either. I feel like, to some extent, Nintendo, obviously does have to adhere to the change of time, and with the degradation of physical copies in the eyes of these companies, and the favoritism towards digital, because ultimately it does come down to what the bill states. And if the bill is like, oh, go through with these cheaper alternatives, like how digital is, you don't have to spend extra on the extra, or you don't have to spend as much, I should say, on these physical cards or these physical discs, because ultimately digital, you don't have to deal with the middleman of having to ship these out to retailers either. If it's all through the online shop, you get the full, the developer will get the full amount, or sorry, the publisher and developer in Nintendo's case will get the full amount, as opposed to going through GameStop or through Target or through Walmart or whatever local retail they ship the games to, etc. So I can understand all that. And so some of you guys were with me when I was like making my predictions, like, oh, the new Mario Kart 9 at the time. Like, I could see that, this will be like their next $70 entry, because, we haven't really seen that all too much with Nintendo since Tears of the Kingdom. So to see it priced at 80 was already pretty egregious. And again, with pricing, I should say, initially, and before all this tariff mumbo jumbo, and before the events leading to its delay with with pre-ordering in North America, I had no qualms with the 450 price. 400 obviously is the ideal in a perfect world, where we expect hopefully only just modern inflation to be the reasoning behind it, and better technology, changing of prices in metals, etc., stuff like that. And I feel like 450 is sort of that ideal sweet spot, the realist sweet spot, where maybe let me be a skeptic for a second. Let me say, okay, 450 is maybe Nintendo already accounting for inflation or these tariffs, etc. And now that's just completely up in the air. But I still feel, for what it's worth, and this is also reinforced by all of the footage and gameplay that we've gotten out of the Nintendo tree houses, just showing nothing but phenomenal quality, phenomenal for performance, virtually zero complaints across the board from the people who are actually there. I've watched Rogers Base cover it, I've seen Gene Park cover it, Anders Restart, etc. Or I'm sorry, Botox Games, and etc. Like, all these people just really, with their first experiences, just with this console, no one has left any room for doubt that this is a excellent piece of hardware that is going to uphold Nintendo for years and years and years to come, as opposed to the Nintendo Switch, which is still going to be relevant to some extent. I feel like they're going to have a larger period of time where the Switch 1 is still relevant as into the Switch 2 life cycle, I should say. Sorry, the longer I go impromptu, the more incoherent my speech gets, which is why I always script my videos. And I can see I've already been running a little longer than I would like on this section alone, but I digress. That is to say that all of this has been completely fine on the tech side of the costs. When it comes to the gaming side of things, I mean, in terms of actually purchasing these games, to see the baseline shift so egregiously, aggressively, and almost harmful to the player, of how adaptive and responsive Nintendo has to be with all these new factors in place, that the baseline, from like one or two games being $70 to be like, nope, you know what? Our top of the line, state of the art, our bestseller, Mario Kart World, which over 60 million sales, 60 million units sold of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch. Mario Kart World is probably going to be our number one, number two, number three, but probably our number one unit of media sold in the Switch 2. You have to obviously be the skeptic. It's like, of course Nintendo's going to want to really make the most out of it. This is something that's going to be in practically every other person's household. And at the same time, we also do have to be the realist here and just, talk about the cost of production, the cost of what it takes to make, the cost of what it is to uphold these developers, the fact that Nintendo's having to probably eat up some of the effects of these real world quote unquote trade wars, or the fact that, they've had to shift production in some areas over to different sections of the world, etc. Like all these cost factors and stuff like that. But to see them be the first to radically push this boundary, so to speak, it's very sad. And the thing is, Nintendo is in a pickle alone just because of the timing of everything, and it sort of looks like Nintendo's this odd one out, but I assure you they're not. This is going to be an industry-wide thing. We've already seen that a little bit with Nvidia earlier in the year when people are scoffing about the next series of the Nvidia, what they're offering. And that was just a little hint, but we were thinking like, oh, it's Nvidia, they're a bunch of greedy sods, aren't they? And of course now it's hitting Nintendo, but it's not just going to stop there. It's also going to drastically affect PS5. It's going to affect Xbox. I mean, think about the PC atmosphere. Who's going to want to make a brand new state-of-the-line PC with all these parts? If you didn't already go out and buy the parts yourself, you're sort of, going to be spending a good few $100s more on a decent computer with the way things are. It's not just Nintendo, which is the biggest reality check, unfortunately, with many of these people that are like screaming, drop the price, or, making all these horrid jokes and statements. You guys think Nintendo wants to be in this position on the eve of their new console release? Suddenly, oh, I knew it, new family-friendly Nintendo. I knew they're just a bunch of greedy sons of guns. And no. Like, obviously they have their own policies and they have their own standards, and what scares me is the idea that, with an $80 title from a company that now almost never puts moderate to significant sales on any of their first line entries, that's concerning. I mean, people are going to go from buying like a handful of Nintendo games a few times a year. Maybe if they really are hell-bent on it, they'll get maybe 2 or 3 games a year at this point, just because, the cost is just so exorbitant and wages aren't going up. And the unfortunate reality is, some people are going to be priced out now, even more so after everything that's just going on. There's going to be people who are already on the fence about it. They're saying we will, but obviously, like, it is at great expense now. It's comparable to a PS5. There are some people that are just like, I can't go out and get my favorite game anymore. And ultimately, like, this does come back on us as players. I mean, people are going to be priced out of purchasing a Switch 2 for themselves, at least initially, maybe in a few months if they save up. But again, this is ultimately a luxury item as compared to actual necessities, which other confluences of factors will also ultimately raise those prices as well. And, I'm still going to try and get a Switch 2 day one, but that's because, thankfully, I am well set off. I have a decent job. I already have a lot of my expenses thoroughly set up and accounted for. So I'm in that comfort spot. But many people just don't have that luxury. And ultimately, again, this is a inconvenience. It is a distraught. It brings a sense of distraught on players, on dedicated fans who grew up with and want to keep experiencing Nintendo games. But ultimately, this hurts Nintendo more than anybody else. Well and truly. This is on the eve of the release of one of the most expectant entries in their console lineup ever. And it's just being ultimately shattered. And there is strong recoil throughout not only just the Nintendo community, but the gaming community as a whole, because again, this is just the tip of the iceberg with these changes. And so I don't expect we're going to see what the new price is going to be for maybe a handful more days. I'm sure that they are going to have to pull back and just analyze all these different facets and avenues and see ultimately if they can gauge what is going to be the most acceptable new price within reason, without, you know, cutting up a loss or ruining their current image any further. Because if you know, the slander on the Nintendo Treehouse presentations and the comment sections, if the talk wasn't so negative in most other facets of players' expression towards Nintendo, if all that wasn't already so negative, they can't, you know, reasonably go above $50 more on the console without some sort of visceral, like utterly visceral reaction, as opposed to what it already was, which is just, you know, I can't even fathom that right now just thinking about it. I don't think that the game prices will be adjusted. I think the fact that some places you can still pre-order them, and they aren't changing them in other regions either, which I hope that means we can expect they will still be par for the course, pretty much the same. The console itself is a whole other spiel, unfortunately, but if they touch the Mario Kart World price after already the sticker shock recoil from $80, if they touch that one, I think they're really in for hell for months to come. And I don't think Nintendo wants that either. Let's be completely honest. I really don't. I think they already knew they were going to be burning some bridges with that $80 sticker. I think they're trying to get ahead of what's to come reasonably, and also just trying to get back in the market a little more, but there's just a lot of ways this can go, and I don't see many of them being positive, and that's the unfortunate reality. But with all that said, I think that's where I'm going to end my rambling for today. I know it's not on the most ideal note. These are just my own thoughts. If you happen to have stuck through it, thank you very much. Please let me know what you think down below. Maybe I'll make another one of these as we get some more info down the line. If you would like that, just let me know down below. But this is where I'm going to love you and leave you guys. So with all that said, have a great day.